My name is Scarlett. I'm 30 years old, and I'm an interior architect living in San Diego. My life up until recently wasn't anything extraordinary, just long hours at work, a few coastal vacation home projects, and constant family calls that always circled back to one topic: helping Madison, my younger sister. But one Tuesday morning, just as I poured my coffee and sat down to check work emails, everything collapsed. In the mailbox outside my apartment was an envelope from the court. I thought it had been delivered to the wrong address until my hands shook as I flipped open the first page. Notice of lawsuit for failure to complete payment on a wedding contract valued at $82,000. My name, my address, my signature. Except I had never signed anything related to a wedding. I froze in the middle of my living room, my heart clenched as if in a vice. Who had set this trap? And why me, the one who had never agreed to pay a single dime? Have you ever been betrayed so blatantly by your own family, turned into the one footing the bill for a dream that wasn't yours? Leave a comment if you've ever been used without anyone standing on your side. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss what comes next. Because what I discovered afterward was far worse. I stared at the paper in my hand, the words blurring as my head spun. Under the line that read plaintiff was the name of one of the most luxurious wedding planners in California, and directly below that, bold and clear, Scarlett W. Campbell. I picked up my phone to call my mother. Then I put it down. Not because I didn't suspect, but because I had long accepted that in the house I grew up in, fairness was a luxury that never existed. My mother, Linda, was the type who never appeared without perfect lipstick and cliches like, family is the most precious thing. She did love her children. But if you asked her who she loved more, the answer would never have been me. Madison, my younger sister, was always the center of attention. She got expensive princess dresses while I wore hand-me-downs. When Madison accidentally broke Mom's antique vase, I was the one scolded for not watching your sister carefully enough. At 16, I was awarded a full scholarship to an interior design summer program in Oregon. I was ecstatic. I remember Mom glancing at the acceptance letter, then smirking. I hope you don't mind if we use that money to send Madison to theater camp with her friends. She'll be so upset if she's left behind. I nodded. I always nodded. I worked part-time shifts at a cafe while Madison spent summers in Miami with a new boyfriend. I skipped my senior trip to stay home and watch the cat when Mom vacationed with her friends. My entire 20s were one long string of exhausted nods. After college, I rented a tiny apartment in San Diego and landed my first job at a design firm. I was content with a used swivel chair, living room renovation projects, and quiet jazz at night. I didn't need much. But I wanted respect. I wanted to be heard. At the very least, not treated like a walking wallet. That never happened. I still remember one evening last year. I had just finished a complex drawing when the phone rang. It was Mom. Scarlett? I need you to transfer me $800 to cover the credit card bill. I bought Madison a dress. Her engagement party is next week. You don't want her embarrassed, do you? I asked. I thought the engagement was next month? Yes, but Travis changed the plan. You know how important engagements are. I'll pay you back once I get my pension check. She never did. And me, I still nodded. Because if I didn't, she'd sigh heavily, remind me of how much she sacrificed raising me, bring up childbirth as if I were a lifelong debt. Then she'd invoke Madison, how your sister is fragile. You have to protect her. I lost count of how many times I heard that. That I was strong, that I understood, that I was the good sister. And somehow all those titles morphed me into the family's secret financial plan. Mom used to call me the pillar of this house. She never once asked if the pillar was tired. I still have a recording of a call with Madison not long ago. She rang while I was eating lunch on the balcony. Hey sis, I'm looking at venues at Bellamy Estate. Oh my god, it's like a dream. You said you'd help me, right? I froze. Madison, I never said I'd pay for your wedding. No, I mean help like cover some things, like always. In the past, I helped because mom cornered me. That doesn't mean I'm obligated to fund everything for you. You're making it sound like I'm a burden. I went silent. Because even if I didn't say it, it was the truth. I don't hate Madison. I hate the way our family taught her to assume sacrifice from others was her birthright. The way I was trained never to refuse, because if I did, I'd be branded selfish. The more I thought, the more fury surged in my chest. From a compliant girl to an adult woman, I had never truly had a voice in my family. And now, they hadn't just taken my money, they had stolen my identity, forged my name onto a wedding contract worth $82,000 without my knowledge. No asking, no permission. I picked up the file again without shaking. Those blue ink signatures, fake but eerily precise, felt like a slap across my face. If I stayed quiet, I'd be in debt for life. If I spoke up, I'd be the traitor in a family ready to turn victims into villains. I sat for hours until the late sun streamed through my window, slanting across the floor. I suddenly remembered a moment from when I was 14. Madison had lost money for tutoring. Mom made me smash open my piggy bank to cover her. When I asked, "Why is it always me who has to lose out?" Mom answered, "Because you're the older sister." I believed her. But I'm not that child anymore. And maybe now, it's time I not only stop nodding but stand up and face everything they've done to me. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment, holding the court summons like it might vanish if I stared long enough. But it didn't. The numbers remained, cold and stark. $82,000. A Bellamy Estate wedding contract. My name, my signature, my social security number. I couldn't fathom how they got every detail so exact. My chest tightened, as though the walls were closing in. I bolted upright, flung open the window, and let the ocean wind chill my spine. I forced a deep breath and dialed Bellamy Estate. A young, bright voice answered after a few rings. "Thank you for calling Bellamy Estate. This is Denise. How can I help you?" "I need to verify a wedding contract under the name Scarlett Campbell, scheduled for next month." I heard her typing quickly. Denise replied cheerfully, "Oh yes, you're the bride's sister, right? Everyone here admires your generosity. Madison and Travis's wedding will be one of the most beautiful events we've ever hosted." I swallowed hard. I never signed any contract. Could you send me a copy? There was a short pause, then her tone dropped. "Oh, in that case, I'll forward this to our legal department. But the signature was verified and the initial deposit has already been processed under your name." "Deposit?" I frowned. "How much?" $15,000. Charged to a credit card in the name of Scarlett Campbell. I felt the blood drain from my face. It wasn't just my signature, they'd used my card. After the call, I rushed to my file cabinet, flipping through bank statements from the last 3 months. Each page cut deeper: Bellamy Estate, deposit confirmation, venue fee, decor consultation, menu tasting, all charged to a supplemental card I had once given Mom. Years ago, one I thought was canceled. I called the bank in panic. The representative confirmed the card was still active because recently my mother requested an extension for business travel, claiming it was for me. At that time, I had been at a conference in Las Vegas. They approved it because all security and personal information matched. My nails dug into my palms. It wasn't just a forged signature. My mother had revived the old card, made payments, and then forged me onto the contract. A whole production behind my back. I called her. She answered after a long ring. "Scarlett, I'm in a meeting with the florists." "What is it, honey?" "I just got a court summons for that $82,000 contract. Silence. Then a sigh, almost irritated. You don't have to make this such a big deal. It's just your sister's wedding. Everyone knows you can afford it. It's not about affordability. They're suing me. I never agreed to any of it. You forged my name and used my card. You know that's illegal. A faint laugh came through the line. Scarlett, you're overreacting. Families help each other with big milestones. You're her sister. You should be glad she'll have a day to remember. Glad? That you made me a debtor without asking? That you faked my signature? You're blaming me? After everything I sacrificed to raise you, now you turn your back on us over a little misunderstanding? I closed my eyes. The same cycle. The same guilt trap she had used for years to turn every outrageous demand into a family duty. I opened them, my voice like ice. This isn't a misunderstanding, it's fraud. She went quiet. Mom, I won't pay. I won't take responsibility for that contract. You and Madison will deal with it yourselves. She gave a brittle laugh. You act like you're the victim when you've only ever thought of yourself. You have your own place, your own car, your own career, and you're MP. Sister, she only wants a decent wedding. I looked out the window, the evening sun spilling gold across the quiet street. I have all that because I built it myself, not because anyone handed it to me. And this won't end the way you think. I hung up. My heart pounded not with fear, but with a cold, sharp anger that cut clearer than ever. I started gathering documents, photographing each receipt, each statement, each vague email. I scrolled back through texts with Madison, the ones where she hinted about my big day and your support is the greatest gift. One message from 2 weeks ago I'd overlooked, sent at 1 a. Thanks for agreeing. I know you always say you don't want to take on more, but I trust you'll be there for me, like always. Something inside me broke. Not anger, just exhaustion so deep it hollowed me out. Because it wasn't only my mother. My whole family for years had programmed me to be their lifeline, always ready to be thrown in to keep them afloat. But who would save me when I started to sink? I closed my laptop and stood up. I had always kept quiet, always protected the family's image, even when they trampled over me. But this time, they had crossed a line I could no longer ignore. And if they thought I'd keep bowing my head, they picked the wrong person to sacrifice. Before I could react further, it felt like a silent wave began rising behind me, cold and relentless, pulling me towards something inevitable. The next morning, while sipping coffee, I got a call from Aunt Clara Mom's younger sister who lived in Utah. Scarlett, I just saw Madison's adorable post on Facebook. You really are the best big sister, covering all the wedding costs and choosing Bellamy Estate too. Wow, that place is so fancy. I froze. Aunt Clara, what post? On Madison's Facebook. Pictures of her and Travis with the planner, and the caption said, "Thanks to my beloved sister for making my dream come true." Everyone's been commenting. I even hit the heart button myself. I didn't answer right away. Scarlett, you still there? I took a breath, forcing my voice to stay calm. Aunt Clara, I never agreed to pay for anything. That's a misunderstanding. She went silent for a moment. Really? Your mom told the whole family you volunteered to sponsor everything. She even said you got emotional and told her, "This is my gift, to thank you all for always being there for me." The relatives in Iowa were so touched they nearly cried. A chill crept down my spine. After we hung up, I opened Facebook and searched Madison's page. Her profile was filled with wedding prep photos, and in nearly every post, my name was repeated like a sponsor's banner. My sister Scarlett is behind it all. I don't know how I'd manage without her. Thanks to my sister for giving me the perfect day. I love you so much. The comments were full of praise. You have the most amazing sister. The ideal big sister right here. Wish my siblings were like yours. I scrolled through them as if walking down a narrow hallway lined with walls built from lies. My phone kept buzzing. A cousin in Arizona asked if she could bring 2 extra guests since you're the one paying anyway. An uncle in Texas texted, "Your family is lucky to have you as their financial anchor." Each word pressed me deeper under the shell my mother and Madison had constructed. A perfect portrait of the selfless sister, of the successful daughter lifting the family up, while in reality I was staring down financial ruin and a lawsuit for a debt I never agreed to. I called Mom. She answered unusually quickly, her voice cheerful, as if nothing was wrong. "Scarlett, I'm at the bakery choosing wedding cake samples. Do you want to pick the frosting? Madison likes ivory, but I think blush pink will photograph better." "Mom," I cut in, "why did you tell the family I agreed to pay for the whole wedding?" Her tone dropped a beat. "Because you will. I know you. You'd never let your sister be embarrassed in front of Travis's family." "But I never said I would pay." "Scarlett," she pressed, "what do you think people would say if I told them the bride's sister refused to help despite having every means? What would they think of our family? Of Madison?" I could hardly believe what I was hearing. "So you think inventing a completely false story is reasonable? Do you realize this could ruin my professional reputation, get me sued, destroy my credit?" She chuckled dismissively. "You're making this too serious. It's just a wedding. You live comfortably, you earn well, shouldn't you share a little? Sharing is when both sides agree. This is coercion. This is fabrication. You've shoved me into the spotlight of dozens of people, shackled me with expectations and false morality." There was a pause, then she sighed. "You always make things heavy. Success has made you forget family loyalty." I lowered the phone onto the table, my heart racing, not with fear, but with a tight, simmering pressure rising to my throat. I stepped in front of the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't weak. She wasn't cold. She was someone asking herself, when did I start being called selfish just for wanting the right to say no? The closet door hung open, suitcase still there, and in that moment, a thought flashed through my mind, not fully formed, not sharp, but for the first time in years, I felt no guilt at the idea of leaving. Leaving for good. That afternoon, I came home, caught between fury and exhaustion. My head spun with Mom's words, still echoing like shouts inside an empty well. I opened the mailbox at the foot of the stairs, expecting nothing but bills and grocery flyers. Instead, there was just one item, a small black USB drive. No envelope, no label, no note. I hesitated, the cold metal pressing against my fingers. Nobody sends an anonymous USB without a reason. But something in me knew this little object could change everything. I plugged it into my laptop. One file appeared, voice, clip, oh 01. I clicked play. A soft beep sounded, followed by a voice I knew too well. "She'd never have the guts to take this to court, trust me. If she did, Mom wouldn't have gotten away with making her cover debts all these years." I froze. It was Madison. No mistaking the lilting ends of her words, the half-teasing, half-mocking tone she always used. Mom's right. Scarlett always thinks saying no makes her the bad guy. She lives off guilt. So let her believe this is for the family. Then Mom's voice came in, steady, deliberate, like a boardroom plan. "We have to be firm. Once it's done, she has no choice. And Madison, just let your sister's name stand. This wedding is the foundation of your marriage. It can't be done cheaply. I already told Travis, my sister's covering it. He thinks we're well off because of her success. We can't let him find out the truth that we're drowning in debt. And don't let anyone know, especially Scarlett. She still clings to the illusion that I'll repay her, or that sisterhood means support." She woke up. I sank into my chair. Silence filled the apartment, each word pierced like a needle to the bone. It wasn't just forged signatures, not just lawsuits or debt. This was an orchestrated plan, calculated, intentional, with everyone's consent. I wasn't someone worth protecting. I was just a tool, a name, a credit card, a facade. A minute earlier, I'd wondered if I was overreacting, if being furious over a wedding was petty, but after hearing that recording, there was no room left for doubt. I opened my email and typed the subject line, "Evidence regarding Bellamy estate contract." My fingers stopped. Not yet. I needed more. I needed to be ready. I pulled up official documents, my driver's license, lease contract, a visa application I'd filed 2 years ago. My signature, neat, slanted slightly left, strokes sharp at the end. Then I zoomed in on the wedding contract's forged signature. The swirl on the S was overdone, the T slashed low the same way Madison always wrote. A stranger wouldn't see it. But me, the older sister who once had to write apology letters on Madison's behalf, I recognized her handwriting in every curl. I ejected the USB, placed it back in the mailbox for safekeeping. That whole night, I couldn't sleep. I noted every anomaly. The day Mom called the bank for the card extension. Madison's first Facebook post about my sister's gift. Aunt Clara's call, the recorded clip. I built a chart, finances, social media, lies, voice evidence. No column labeled family. I thought of the old wooden box under my bed stuffed with high school letters, photos, birthday cards Madison once drew for me. I pulled out a folded note, her messy scrawl. "Scarlett, you're my favorite. When I get married, you have to be my maid of honor." I smiled faintly, not out of joy, not anger. Just the hollow smile of someone who finally understood time can turn promises into weapons, love into burdens, and a sister into someone willing to sell you out to protect a lie. I folded the note, tucked it back, and shoved the box deep into the closet. The next morning, I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, and scheduled a meeting with a lawyer specializing in financial fraud and civil disputes. I also set an appointment with an old accountant friend, the one who helped me handle a banking scam 2 years ago. I printed all the compiled documents, neatly placed them in a gray folder. It was clear now. This wasn't about a sister helping her sibling get married. This was systemic manipulation. And if they thought the word family would keep me silent, it was time they carved me in. Thought again. Later that morning, I headed to a small cafe shaded by oak trees on Mission Street, the spot where Ethan, an old college friend, always worked on Thursdays. He was the only person I trusted enough to hear this whole story. Not just because he was a sharp attorney, but because he'd witnessed firsthand how my family operated. All sweet pressure and obligations wrapped in affection. Ethan sat in his usual corner, laptop open, an almost empty espresso beside a thick notebook. I sat across from him, no pleasantries, no preamble. I slid the folder I'd worked on all night across the table. This is everything about the wedding contract in my name. And this I tapped the USB is a recording of my mom and Madison planning to forge my signature. Ethan, they actually used my old credit card to make the deposit. He didn't open the folder right away. Instead, he looked at me, his eyes serious. "Scarlett, are you sure you want to go down the legal route? Once you start, there's no pulling back. Your family won't have a way out." I leaned back in my chair, gazing out the window where sunlight danced through the branches onto the pavement. They never gave me a way out in the first place. If I stay silent, I'll be paying more than $80,000, and what I lose won't just be money. Ethan opened the folder, flipping through the pages, nodding slowly. "This signature clearly doesn't match the sample on your driver's license, and there's an audio clip with their own voices admitting what they did that's very strong evidence." If necessary, we can bring in a handwriting expert and file charges for identity fraud and financial abuse. I was quiet for a moment, then asked, "If I don't do anything, what happens?" Ethan tilted his head slightly, his voice steady, like he was laying things out for a jury. "If you don't respond, the court will treat you as the non-responsive party, which means confirming your responsibility to pay. They can collect the debt through wage garnishment, asset seizure, even damage your credit score for years. But if you file a countersuit with evidence, we have a chance to turn the entire case around." I nodded, clasping my fingers tightly together. "I'll do it. I don't have a choice." We spent nearly an hour reviewing the timeline. When the card was used, the deposit transactions, the social media posts, Madison's suggestive messages, and especially the recording. Ethan told me I needed to keep collecting every call, text, email, even handwritten notes if possible. The things that seemed minor could end up being decisive evidence. Leaving the cafe, I didn't head home but turned toward the public library near the shoreline. I needed quiet space to start the next step of my plan. I opened my laptop, logged into my email, and typed "wedding" into the search bar. Dozens of messages popped up. Invitations, thank you notes Madison had sent to planners I didn't know, even e-invoices from a photo booth rental with my name listed as the payer. I saved everything into a folder labeled simply "Legal Response." Then I went on LinkedIn, searching for the Seattle job posting Eleanor, my former colleague, had once suggested. The company was a design studio specializing in high-end residential spaces, now expanding into South Lake Union. I uploaded my portfolio, typed out an application letter, each keystroke feeling like pushing open a door I had long been afraid to touch. I wrote about 8 years of experience, the projects I had led, how I balanced aesthetics with clients' practical needs. I didn't mention the wedding. I didn't mention Madison. But every choice I made was because of it. By the time I hit submit, the sky had already turned late afternoon. My phone rang. It was Eleanor. "Scarlett, did you send it in?" I just spoke with their head of design. He was impressed. "Just seeing your name." I smiled faintly. "Yes, I sent it about 10 minutes ago." "Good. I'll follow up. They need someone quickly." "And Scarlett." "Yes?" "I don't know what's happening with your family, but if you're trying to get out of it, Seattle could be a fresh start." Her voice carried a warmth I hadn't realized I'd been craving. I thanked her and hung up, opening the window to let the sea air sweep through. The breeze was salty, but not cold. It sharpened my thoughts. I went back through my phone, rereading Madison's messages from the past 3 months. One in particular I had kept, even though at the time I wanted to delete it. "You won't let me down, right? Everyone knows you won't abandon me now." I pressed and held the message, chose screenshot, then pasted it into the growing evidence file. Nothing was meaningless. Everything could be used to protect myself. I looked around my apartment, not large, but clean, neat. And, at least for now, the only place I could think clearly as an independent adult, not a child forever trapped in the glass cage of sacrifice. I picked up my mug of tea, standing by the window. The street below buzzed with life. Sunset stretched long across the glass of the office tower opposite. I hadn't left yet, but inside, a part of me had already begun packing. On Saturday evening, I drove back to my mother's house, my state of mind caught between guarded and drained. The sky was overcast, matching the heaviness that had hung over me all week. Mom's text had been clear. "Dress nicely. Travis's family will be here. Madison wants you to look presentable." I didn't reply. I parked in front of the house I grew up in, a place that had once been home, but over time had become the stage for every performance I never volunteered to play in. As the door opened, the smell of roast meat and red wine filled my nose, mingling with bursts of laughter from the living room. I stepped inside, and instantly felt at least 5 pairs of eyes sweep over me like spotlights. "There's Scarlett," a woman's voice rang out. Aunt Clara hurried over from the long dining table, throwing her arms around me. "You really are wonderful. I'm still touched by your generosity." I forced a polite smile, gently easing her arms off. "Where did you hear that, Aunt Clara?" "From your mother, of course. She said you volunteered to cover all the wedding costs. Nearly $100,000. Madison's lucky to have you." Before I could respond, Travis, the groom to be, approached with a wine glass in hand. Tall, polished, with a smile so practiced it felt campaign-ready. "Scarlett." He shook my hand firmly. "Thank you. Madison told me you've always been her rock financially and emotionally. I'm truly grateful." Madison appeared right behind him, as if on cue. Her hair curled softly, her ivory dress perfectly fitted. She wrapped an arm around my waist like we were the closest of sisters. "You're here! Everyone's been waiting for you." I gave a thin smile. "I'm just wondering whether this is a family dinner or a live broadcast." Madison winked. "You always know how to joke." I didn't answer. In the dining room, guests were already seated around the long table, draped in white cloth, candles glowing, crystal glasses sparkling. I was placed between my father and grandmother. Mom sat at the head, facing Madison and Travis. The air buzzed with chatter, but beneath it, I could sense the stiffness in every gesture, as if the evening had been carefully scripted. After the appetizer, Mom rose with her glass raised. "Before the main course, I want to say a few words about my eldest daughter, Scarlett." Every gaze shifted to me. I kept my chin level, expression steady. "Scarlett is the pride of our family," she continued, quiet but strong. "And on this special occasion, when she chose to sponsor her sister's wedding, I was deeply moved." Applause rippled through the room. I stayed seated. I didn't clap. I didn't smile. Mom's eyes flicked at me, signaling, "Stand up." So I did. My legs trembled faintly beneath the linen skirt, but I stood. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began, my voice clear enough to rise above the clinking of cutlery. "I just want to make one thing absolutely clear. I never agreed to pay for this wedding." It was as if the room had been drained of air. No one moved, no clinking, no breaths. I looked straight at Travis. "If you've misunderstood because of what Madison or my mother said, I sincerely apologize. But I didn't sign any contract. I made no promises." Madison shot to her feet, her face pale. "What are you doing?" I met her gaze. "Telling the truth." My mother let out a bitter laugh, sharp and mocking. "Oh, Scarlett, still such a child. Acting like the entire event depends on your signature. Do you really need attention so badly that you'd smear your own family?" I ignored her and turned to the table, my tone steady. "I didn't come here to fight. But I won't allow this fabricated story to continue. Everyone believes I'm generous. What they don't know is that my signature was forged, my credit card misused, and I'm facing a lawsuit with the venue." A few guests gasped. My grandmother set her glass of water down gently. "Scarlett, is that true?" she asked softly. I nodded. "I'm working with an attorney." Madison bit her lip, her eyes filling with tears. "You're trying to ruin my wedding. For what? Because I have something you don't?" My brow furrowed. "If you think the price of your wedding is money, reputation, and twisted family ties, then keep it. It's yours to bear." Travis sat frozen, his once confident smile replaced with visible tension. The rest of dinner dragged on in strained silence. No one brought up flowers or bridesmaids again. I picked at my fish, sipped my water, and spoke no more. The strangest part was that I no longer feared Mom's anger or Dad's disappointment. I no longer felt the urge to run around patching wounds I hadn't caused. I wasn't their pawn anymore, and though painful, the freedom felt oddly light. That night, back in my apartment, exhaustion weighed on every joint like a damp blanket. Yet inside, there was no trace of hesitation left. My phone rang as I stacked the documents together. After a few tones, a cheerful voice answered. "Thank you for calling Emerald Movers. This is Gina. How can I help you today?" "I need to schedule a move. The 14th in the morning, around 10:30. Typing sounds. Yes, the 14th of this month? I can book you at 10:30 a.m. Do you need anything specific?" "Be on time. I'll need 3 movers and a large truck. Furniture, documents, some electronics." "Of course. Will you pack yourself or need full service?" "I'll prepare everything." After confirming the new Seattle address, I hung up. Outside the window, city lights smeared across the glass like a painting stretched by tears. I stood there for a long while, hand gripping the frame, feeling the weight of closing a chapter not with words but with action. The next 2 days, I packed in silence. Each item carried a memory. The chair where I drew my first design sketch. The mug Mom gave me for Christmas at 15. A framed photo with Madison from high school. I didn't take everything. Some I boxed separately, labeling, "Do not move." I'd leave those behind. On Tuesday evening, I called Eleanor. "How's Seattle?" "Perfect. The office is rushing to finish the new workspace. You'll love it. Your room has a window facing Lake Union." I dropped down onto the floor, still wrapping twine around a box of books. I scheduled the movers. Thursday morning, same time, the family will be out with Madison trying on wedding dresses. Eleanor paused for a beat. "Are you sure?" I gave a faint smile. "I don't have many options left." "Then, congratulations." "And Scarlett," her voice softened, "I'm really proud of you." On Wednesday morning, I woke early, partly from nerves, partly because something inside me had already begun rejecting the air in that house, as if my body had decided before my mind was ready. I printed copies of every financial transaction tied to years of being used, the unauthorized credit card charges, the scholarship money forced over to Madison, even the car repair Mom once promised to pay back within a month, 8 pages long. I also printed a statement for Ethan, my attorney, with a copy of the USB containing the recording of Mom and Madison. I slid it all into a cream-colored envelope, sealed it, and wrote the final line in black ink. "This is the last time you use me as your bank." I didn't sign my name. That evening, I stopped by my mother's house under the pretense of dropping off an early wedding gift for Madison. The house buzzed with preparations for the dress fitting the next day. Mom was on the phone with the cake vendor, Madison fussed with lipsticks in the bathroom, and Dad sat, as always, blank-eyed in front of the television. No one noticed when I slipped the envelope onto the coffee table beneath a glossy bridal magazine with Madison's face on the cover. "I'm heading out," I called toward the kitchen. "Be at the boutique by 10 tomorrow," Mom shouted back. "Don't embarrass your sister by being late." I smiled faintly but said nothing. Thursday morning, Seattle was colder than I expected. I arrived at the new apartment before the truck. The living room windows were still dusty from construction, the wooden floor bare, the walls stark white, yet the morning light pouring in made the space feel oddly warm. Gina from the moving company called to confirm. 10:15. I sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, eyes closed, listening to the wind sweep through unfamiliar streets. When the rumble of the moving truck entered the lot, I opened my eyes. What I felt wasn't joy nor regret. It was peace. I stood, walked to the door, and prepared to step into a sky I'd once thought I lacked the courage to reach. I was in the middle of the living room, dust still clinging to my hands from unpacking books, when my phone buzzed violently. 1 missed call, 2, 3, all from Mom. I didn't answer. I let the ringing go on until it died. But less than a minute later, the text alerts came flooding in. I opened one, just to read it through. "Scarlett, what have you done? Travis is furious. The whole house is in chaos. Call me right now. The next message was from Madison. Long, frantic, no punctuation. What did you do with that envelope? Travis read it. Mom read it. Aunt Clara read it. You're trying to destroy my life. The wedding is falling apart. I hate you. I set the phone down on the counter, walked into the kitchen, and pulled a cold bottle of water from the fridge. My hands trembled not from panic, but from the adrenaline finally draining after days of tension. I didn't cry, I didn't laugh. I just stood there, in the small kitchen with its spotless white tiles, drinking water while the phone screamed my name from a world I no longer belonged to. Only when voicemail clicked on did I sit at the table. Mom's voice came through, hoarse and urgent. Scarlett, listen to me. You're destroying this family's honor. I don't understand how you can be so cruel. Do you want Travis to leave Madison? Do you want everyone to think we're liars? That envelope, it should never have existed. I can't believe you'd be this heartless. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Her words blurred into noise. In their place grew a silence. I'd been craving for years the release, like ropes around my chest, my shoulders, even my sleep, finally loosening. The next message was a photo from a cousin. Mom's living room, papers I had left spread across the coffee table. Mom's face pale, hollow, drained of life. Madison wasn't in the photo, but I could picture it clearly screaming, mascara streaks, lipstick smeared, a wine glass shattering against the floor. The phone rang again. Madison this time. I hesitated, then picked up. Her scream tore into my ear. Do you know what you've done? I didn't reply. Travis just postponed the wedding. He said my family isn't honest, that I'm manipulative. He said he won't put in another dime until everything is legally clarified. You're playing with my future. Still, I said nothing. Her breath broke into gasps, then sobs. You've always been jealous of me, haven't you? Because I have marriage. I have love. You're alone, stuck in that stupid design career nobody cares about. You want to drag me down too, don't you? I clenched my hand, steadying my voice. No one dragged you down. You jumped, because you don't know the difference between love and exploitation. Don't act righteous, Scarlett. If you didn't want to pay, you could have just said so. Why expose us? Why throw those papers in the living room for everyone to see? Do you know how shocked Mom was? Do you want to kill her? I exhaled, eyes fixed on the window framing the lake. I told you from the start I never agreed. You and Mom chose for me. You wanted your dream wedding, now you pay for it. As for me, I'm done carrying anyone else's debt. You'll die alone. Do you get that? No one could ever love someone like you. I hung up. No more accusations, no more screams. Everything that needed to be said was said. Everything they needed to hear was theirs to face now. After that call, messages poured in from relatives. Aunt Clara wrote of her disappointment. Uncle Steve scolded me for airing family laundry. Grandma texted that family matters shouldn't be exposed. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I opened my laptop, drafted an email to Ethan, attaching photos of the envelope, the audio file, and screenshots of Madison's old posts. I asked him to formally contact Bellamy Estate, confirm I was the victim, and demand my name be removed from the contract, along with a request for an investigation into the illegal use of my personal information. Not long after, Ethan replied, short and sharp. Evidence is clear. I'll handle this. I shut the computer, stepped onto the balcony. The wind had picked up. Clouds drifted slowly over Lake Union, catching the gold of late afternoon light. I stood there a long while, thinking nothing, just letting the air move through my hair, my breath finding its rhythm again. Back home, chaos reigned. Madison must have been tearing apart the perfect image she'd built. But here, in the place I'd only just begun to call mine, there was quiet, no shouting for money. No traps disguised as love. No demands for things I was told I owed. I still hurt, but at least the pain was mine, defined by me, not bound by blood. It was just me and the only choice I had ever dared to make for myself. 3 days after sending Ethan that last email, a message landed in my inbox. Subject line, cancellation of contract Hashin 287, Bellamy Estate Wedding Services. I opened it with a mix of nerves and calm. The tone was polite, formal, corporate. They confirmed that, after reviewing the evidence provided by my attorney, including signature analysis, the recording, financial records, and corroborating testimony, they recognized that Scarlett W. Campbell was not a legal party to the wedding contract between Madison Campbell and Bellamy Estate. The contract was voided as to me, and all financial responsibility, including the $20,000 deposit, was transferred to the remaining parties, Linda Campbell and Madison Campbell. I didn't smile. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel victorious. I simply exhaled deeply, then forwarded the email to Ethan so he could take the next steps. That afternoon, Ethan called back after speaking with Bellamy's representatives. They're cooperative. They'll issue a formal demand to Linda and Madison to pay within 10 days. If they don't, it moves to civil collections. I nodded, though he couldn't see me. And the court? I asked. We're pursuing the countersuit. With what we've got, it's highly likely their case will be dismissed. I'll keep on it. I thanked him and ended the call. That evening, my phone stayed strangely quiet. No angry texts, no guilt-tripping calls, just silence. But I wasn't unsettled by it. It was the kind of silence I had fought for. By the fourth day, a text from Mom appeared on my screen. Just 4 words, "Are you satisfied now?" I stared at it for a long time, fingers motionless. I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't triumphant. I was simply returning the truth to where it belonged. The following night, James, my best friend from college, video called from Chicago. He was the only one besides Ethan and Eleanor who knew everything. "You holding up?" James asked, concern shining behind his round glasses. "I'm holding, not happy, but steady." James leaned closer to the screen. "Ethan told me about the cancellation notice. That was fast, and it was clear. You did the right thing, Scar. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself." I stayed quiet for a moment, then nodded. Madison is scrambling to cover the damages. Sounds like Travis moved out of their apartment. My cousin texted me he doesn't want to be tied to a marriage built on lies. James sighed. "Honestly, that's getting off easy. Another family would have countersued by now." I poured more tea into my glass. The light from the living room lamp glinted along the rim. The new apartment still felt Tabor. Bare, but at least there were no footsteps echoing but mine. "There's a part of me," I admitted softly, "that still grieves. Not for losing them, but for once believing that if I just tried harder, they'd finally understand." James studied me for a long time before asking gently, "And now?" I answered, "Now I'm done trying." On Saturday morning, I stepped out for coffee, planning to swing by the farmer's market near the park. While waiting in line, my phone buzzed. It was Eleanor. "Scarlett, are you free? The new studio just finished the sample showroom. We'd love for you to see it, and maybe grab lunch with the design team." I nodded instinctively, then remembered she couldn't see me. "Yes, I'm close by." I arrived right at noon. The space was open, glass walls, natural light streaming in, soft jazz humming in the background. It felt like stepping into a world where no one tried to mold me into their version of who I should be. Eleanor introduced me to the design team, young, passionate, none of them aware of what I had gone through. To them, I wasn't the sister who financed a wedding, not the ungrateful daughter, not a walking wallet. I was simply Scarlett, an interior designer stepping into a new project. Midway through lunch, My phone buzzed with a new message. The number wasn't saved. I'm the financial manager at Bellamy Estate. Please be advised that Mrs. Linda Campbell and Miss Madison Campbell are delinquent in paying the damages under contract number 1287. A final demand letter will be sent on Monday. I locked the screen. I didn't forward it. No reaction needed. I had already stepped out of that game. On the walk home, I crossed a small bridge over the lake. The wind whipped around me, damp with mist. I paused, wondering, if I had never received that court summons, would I have left? If I had endured one more time, would Madison have stopped or only demanded more? No one answered. And I no longer needed an answer. I wasn't searching for reasons anymore, not for my father's silence, my mother's coldness, or Madison's greed. I was simply living with my choices. With this little sky I owed to no one. I turned away from the water and continued down the oak-lined street. Seattle felt different not for its scenery, but because I had set things right before arriving. The first month moved slowly, like an instrumental piece, quiet, steady, full of detail if you listened closely. I began work at the studio on the north side of the city, in an office with glass windows overlooking Lake Union. Each morning light poured in, reflecting on pale wood desks, sometimes spilling over my hands as I sketched the first lines of a new open kitchen design. No one here asked about family. No one pried into the past. To my coworkers, I was simply someone who had worked in San Diego, led a small renovation team, and was now designing a mountain cabin chain. Sometimes Eleanor invited me for Friday lunch. She never pressed. She just shared small stories, a new restaurant she'd tried, a flower in her yard beginning to bloom, her youngest daughter preparing for college. Her lightness gave me space to breathe without having to justify my existence. I unpacked slowly, assembling a walnut bookshelf, hanging 2 old paintings I'd once picked up at a harbor flea market as a student. The apartment wasn't large, but everything here was mine, my choice, my decision, untouched by demands or explanations. Calls from Mom never came again. Madison never texted after that last call. Instead, news trickled through distant channels, old classmates, a distant cousin, mutual social media contacts. Word spread that the wedding was canceled. Travis withdrew his commitments, insisting on legal waivers. Madison fumed, spiraled. She deleted all wedding photos, locked comments, then vanished from platforms for days. Rumors flew. She smashed a bathroom mirror, cut ties with her bridesmaids. I didn't care which was true. There was no reason to care. One Tuesday morning, sipping coffee on my balcony and reviewing notes for a meeting, I received an email. Sender, Linda Campbell. Subject, about what happened. The message was short. No tears, no denial, no begging. She wrote that she had failed by letting things go too far. That some intentions start from good places but twist when forced. That being a mother isn't easy, and she admitted she had fallen short in that role. At the end, she wrote, "If you never forgive me, I understand, but I hope one day you'll come back." I didn't reply right away. I let it sit in pending for nearly a week. Not from anger, but because I needed to weigh something I had ignored for 30 years, my own feelings. At last, I typed a short response. Some bridges must burn, so we never walk back down the wrong road. Nothing more. I didn't mention lawsuits, losses, or the gap between us. I only said the one thing that mattered. I was gone, and I wasn't turning back. That day, after hitting send, I left the apartment earlier than usual. I caught the number 32 bus to its final stop at Alki Beach, where the water stretched endlessly west, waves breaking against stone like whispers without end. I stood on a small outcropping, watching the sun tilt toward the horizon, gilding the water and warming my hands clasped at my stomach. The breeze was gentle, carrying salt, and a softness at the nape of my neck. I closed my eyes, listening to the rhythm of waves, the dive of seabirds, the wind sweeping through tall pines. And in that moment, I realized no one was calling my name out of obligation. No one was waiting for me to decide for them. No one was pinning on me the role of sister, daughter, provider. I was just Scarlett, nothing more, nothing less. A person breathing, standing on her own ground, with scars healed and doors yet to open. I smiled, not for something grand, but because for the first time in years I felt whole, without anyone's approval, without being defined by a role, just me, and that was enough. And you? What about you? If it were you, would you find the courage to step out of the invisible chains called family? I didn't choose revenge. I chose to live a life no longer as a backup wallet, no longer a side character in someone else's story. Some may call me ungrateful, cold, but sometimes to keep even a sliver of peace, you must cut ties knotted too long. Have you ever been in a place like that? Manipulated, exploited, blamed the moment you set boundaries? Tell me in the comments below how you see it. Do you relate to my decision or hold another view? I want to hear your story because maybe you'll be the main character in the next journey of strength. And if this story touched something in you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Family life is always more complicated than it seems, but sometimes in the breaking, we finally find ourselves. I'll see you in the next story where truths aren't swept under the rug and the voices of the quiet ones are finally heard.